All right, so as you can see from my screen, we discussed use cases last week. Use case, all right, use case is a functional black box testing technique that helps testers to identify test scenarios that exercise the whole system on each transaction basis from start to finish. So you can define it easily. A use case is the pictorial representation of the requirements where user action and system response is described. As you can see from here, this is a use example of use case from an ATM system. Account holder, right? What account holder does, enter pins, right? Once account holder enter pins, the system check the pin if the pin is correct, right? And if the pin is correct, right, what happens? The user account holder can withdraw funds, right? When they withdraw funds, right, again, it goes to bank server, because you might be trying to withdraw funds but you might not have money in your bank or in your account, so you cannot withdraw funds. So what will happen, even though you try to withdraw fund, the ATM will be checking in the bank server if you have money, and then if you have money you can withdraw, you can deposit funds, transfer funds, right? So account holder does thing, and system, right, whenever account holder enter pins, system go to bank server, checks it. Whenever account holder wants to withdraw money, system will be going to bank server for what? For checking. Similar way, if account holder wants to check balance, the ATM doesn't have that capability to show your balance. The only way it will be able to do that, it will be going to the bank server, and then it will give you the information, right? So that is how like when you have like pictorial representation of the requirement, then it is easy to understand for the developers, it is easy to understand for the testers, right? Testers can easily write test cases. Tester for sure that they can write a test case for pin, right? If you enter a valid pin, then what will happen? If you enter an invalid pin, then what will happen? Looking at the image, they know, okay, they will have to write few test cases from this, right? So as I said previously, as a tester, our key responsibility is to write test cases. And when we write test cases, we look at the requirement document. We look at the requirement document, and if I bring that particular flow, how that works, right? If I bring that, let me bring that document. I think this is not the right document. Let me bring the right document. Give me 1 second. Software development, how it works. Okay, this is the document. So let's say that what was our initial discussion? Georgia State, let's say Georgia State needs a software. A lot of the organization, you'll see, that do not have their big IT team. When they need software, they go to organization where they develop software. Let's say IBM, right? IBM might be developing a lot of software. So Georgia State go to IBM. Okay, we need a software. From IBM, there are BAs, business analysts. They sits with people from Georgia State to understand business. They collect the requirement. Right? The BAs collect the requirement. BAs are from IBM, and they sits with Georgia State business people, and they collect the requirements, and BAs from IBM, business analysts from IBM, they prepare BRD, business requirement document, FRD, and use cases, right? The BAs prepares BA, or sometimes we say business analyst, system analyst, okay? They understand the requirement from the business, and then they prepare BRD, FRD, and use cases. BRD, FRD, use cases, these documents goes to the development team, goes to the software QA team. In the QA team, we work with the tester, we work in the QA team, and this requirement document goes to the software development team, software QA team. Software development team, they prepare the technical design document, right? Let's say you need you need to build a warehouse, okay, for your, let's say you do business in Amazon and you need to prepare a warehouse for your staff. So uh, if you need to prepare a warehouse, you go to a civil engineer and you tell them your requirement. Okay, you need a 4,000 square feet warehouse where you want this. So civil engineer, they will be getting the requirement from you and they will be preparing design first, right? And once the design is approved, people will be starting building the warehouse. Similarly, the requirement is there, the requirement come to the development team, the development team prepare the design, right? And after preparing the design, they starts writing the software by code, okay, Java, .NET, right? They use different computer language to write the code. And this requirement also goes to the software QA group. The QA group, they prepare, they also, when they get the document, they have to plan the testing. They write test plan. They, first of all, they understand the requirement, they read the requirement, they set up meeting with the BAs to understand the requirement, and then they write test plan and test cases. And once a significant portion of the application is developed and is put for testing, the QA group, they, after the code is, after the software is developed, it is being deployed in the QA environment for testing. The QA people test the application according to the requirement, according to the test cases they have written. That is how software development goes. So the development people, they use development environment for developing the software, and after developing the software, they put the software in the QA environment where QA people, they do the testing. And after QA testing, the software goes for pre-production environment where UAT, user acceptance testing, performance testing happens. And when all this testing is done, software is good, then it goes for production. We already have discussed this, right? Okay. Now, so here, if you take a look here, so this is a requirement, like quick description of the requirement, and once you have images like this, then it is easy for you to prepare test cases. Similarly, I have another image of a use case. As you can see here, bank customer again goes to ATM, withdraw cash, transfer funds, deposit funds. Again, all of this information, whatever you try to do, the ATM verifies it with bank server, right? And maintenance person, they come to the ATM, they refill the ATM with money or papers or ink, right? All kind of thing they does. So this is basically the use case that we have discussed during our last session. Okay. Now, now, so now, now that, okay, now you understand requirements. You understand requirements, and you know that as a tester, you will be reading the requirements. Requirements are plainly written in what language? Requirements are written in the requirement documents are plainly written in English language. So for you to understand the requirement document, you will be able to read it, and also you will be able to set up conference calls with the business analyst. And by having the conference call, what will happen? By having the conference call, you will be able to ask question, okay, what is the requirement, can you explain more, right? Once your understanding is clear on the requirements, then you will be writing test cases from those requirement document. How the test cases looks like? So let me show you a sample test case. So the test cases look like this. Okay, so once you have understood requirement, right, you will be writing test cases. Normally in the test case, let's say this is a test case, this is a test case. Test cases comes with tabular format, okay, like this. And in the test case, you have step ID, step description, right, and then expected result, and then actual output, pass or fail, and if you have any comments. So depending on what organization you are working, they will have more or less column in the test cases, but few columns: step ID, step description, expected result. These are common column. Okay, so if we give a simple example, what is a test case? As I said previously, test cases are the bread and butter of if you work as a tester. You will be writing every day. Every day you will be either writing test cases or you will be testing an application according to a test case that you have previously written. Okay, so every day what you do every day, you do either you write test cases or you test an application according to the test cases that you have previously written. Okay, now, so number one, open browser and navigate to mail.yahoo.com. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah, every you have in organization you will see for everything there are formats. Yeah, you can use it for another test case. And when you write test case, here we are showing that you will be writing test case in tabular format, but actually you will be writing test cases in online tool. There will be online tool where you will be able to, this tabular format is already there, you will be putting your step number and then you will be writing these things. The tabular will already be there. Okay, so here, so let's say first step, if you want to search, if you want to test the mail functionality, right, mail functionality, then let's say you want to search mail. Okay, you want to search mail in Yahoo Mail. So first of all you have to log in. When you log in, oh, you have to open browser and you have to navigate to mail.yahoo.com. And then you say, okay, when you open the browser and navigate to mail.yahoo.com, what are you expecting? I am expecting Yahoo Mail will be appeared on the top left corner. Yahoo Mail logo will be appearing, right? If you type here mail.yahoo.com, mail.yahoo.com, can you see the logo will be appeared in the top left corner? This is your expectation. Okay, now, so here, um, input email ID to text box and click next. You will be inputting email ID. What is the action, right? Step description or action. This is basically step description or action. Input email ID into the text box and click next. When you click next, it will give you, expectation is password text box will be appeared or displayed. And then input password and click sign in. When you click sign in after inputting the password, you will see the inbox. If your user ID is good, then you will see the inbox. And then there will be a search bar here. If you type an email address, right, then it will bring all of the emails, if you have any, for that particular email address. So this is the, like, type an email address in the search text box and press enter. Corresponding emails will be displayed. Do you understand now what is the purpose of test case and actually how you write your test case? Yeah, it is actually step by, what is, if I ask you, okay, what is test case, what is test case? Test case is the step by step description of how to test an application. Test case is the step by step description of how to test an application, right? If I ask you that, okay, test the login functionality of Yahoo Mail. So if you want to test it, definitely you will have to open mail.yahoo.com, and then you have to input an email ID, you have to email a password, and then you have to click on login. If you see your inbox, right, then you know the functionality is working. Is that correct? If you input an invalid email ID that is not created, an invalid password, if you are still able to log in, then is that mail functionality working? No, no. We will say that the mail functionalities are working if we input a valid email ID, valid password. If it is able to log in and give us the home page, then we will say that Yahoo mail functionalities are working. If we input a invalid email ID, invalid password, then it will say something that okay, you have invalid credentials. Is that correct? Okay. So if you test with a valid email ID and valid password, then definitely we know that we will get positive result. Is that correct? So that is where we are calling positive testing. And when you input an invalid ID or password, and if you log in, you will get a error message that your credentials are not good. That is what we are calling negative testing. Okay, negative testing. Remember these two words, positive testing and negative testing. Positive testing and negative testing. So in positive testing, we check if the functionalities are working when you supply a valid credential. Negative testing, we test if the application is able to display proper error message when you supply a invalid credential. Does it make sense what is positive and negative testing? Folks, can you talk? Okay, that is what positive and negative testing. Now, we will be discussing a lot about test cases. But before you even prepare test cases, you have to plan your testing. Okay, before you even uh, start writing test cases, when you got the requirements from the BAs, when you got the BRD, FRD or use cases from BAs, what you do first, right? You analyze and you prepare a test plan. Is that correct? You prepare a test plan. Now let me create a new document. Um, when you have received your documents, right? When you have received your BRD, business requirement document, FRD, functional requirement documents, and use cases, right? What you do, you analyze these documents and start writing your test cases. Oh, start writing your test plan. You plan the testing. Now, what is the test? What is a test plan? What is a test plan? Now, the test plan, the test plan is a document. The test plan is a document that describes the scope, approach, schedule, resource allocation, entry criteria, exit criteria, defect reporting of the testing of an application. Okay, now, like, Okay, when the test plan come into picture, can anyone tell me like when the test plan come into picture?
Will it come after the FRD and the use cases are together?
Okay, so answer this question: who prepares the test plan?
QA does.
QA people. Okay, QA people or testers, they prepare the test plan. And when do they prepare the test plan?
All right. Yeah.
So you prepare the test plan. You prepare the test plan once you have um, you prepare the test plan once you have the BRD, FRD, and test cases. You prepare the test plan once you have the BRD, FRD, and test cases. Now this is the like you analyze the requirement and you prepare the test plan. What is the purpose of preparing the test plan? Like you have to know before you start the testing, you have to know the scope of the testing. Scope means okay, uh, what are the functionalities? What are the functionalities we are going to test? A website might have 1000 functionalities. Out of 1000 functionalities, we might be testing 100 functionalities only, depending on how much the developers like. You can only test something, if it is developed. Is that correct?
Correct.
If it is not developed by the developers, can you can you can only test if it is developed and it is deployed in the QA environment for you. If it is not developed, there is no way you can test. Now, when the developers develop an application, they do not develop the whole thing probably at a time. They divide it into, remember, in software development methodology, we have learned agile methodology, where let's say if you have 50 requirements in an application, they divide the requirements in sprint. So they take, let's say, 10 requirements for first sprint, another 10 requirements for the next sprint, and another 10 requirements for the third sprint, and another 10 requirements for the fourth sprint, and last 10 requirements for the fifth sprint. Sprint means in agile methodology, they divide the requirement and conquer. Conquer means like out of 50 requirements, right? Let's say they divide it in a sprint, means let's say from September to October will be first sprint, and November to December will be second sprint, and January to February will be third sprint, and March April will be fourth sprint, and May June will be fifth sprint, right? So they will be developing the developers will be developing first 10 requirements during September and October. First 10 requirements, okay? And then the next 10 requirements they will be developing November and December, in that way, right? So when they will be developing the first 10 requirements during September and October, right? Then once it is developed, then they will give it to you for testing. The application features are available. You'll be navigating to the URL and then you'll be able to test it. Does it make sense? So we have to know what is the scope, right? How many requirements we are going to test. If we do not know the scope, then we cannot plan it. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then once we know the scope, and then we have to, okay, how we are going to test it. Approach, we have to get our approach. Okay, we'll be testing it, we'll have test cases, and then we will be testing it, in this way. We'll be going through the application, and we'll be describing okay how we are going to test it in the approach. In the test plan, you will be having your scope, you will be having your approach, you will be having your schedule. Okay, for what date to what date you are going to test it, and you will be having resource. Okay, how many testers, who is going to do what of this testing, you will be putting everything in the test plan. And then entry criteria. Now entry criteria means you can only test if the code is deployed in the QA environment, is that correct? And you will be only able to test if the functionalities are working. If none of the functionalities are working, then you cannot test it. You will be able to say that if a functionality requires login, then they will have to give you the user ID and password to test it, is that correct? Let's say you are working in a banking application, right? Then in banking application, without logging in, you can do nothing, right? Is that correct? So besides the test application, uh, corresponding developers, they will have to give you the user ID and password so that you can log in and do this testing. Let's say there are few functionalities, like manager can look few things that you cannot. Let's say if you go to a bank, like when you are talking about a banking application, right? When you log in as a user, then you'll be able to see few things. But when the bankers they log in, they will be able to see more. Is that correct? So when you log into a banking application as a user, as a customer, then you see a particular view. When a bank manager logs in, they see a different view. They see more than what you can see. Is that correct? So they will have to give you all kind of users, general users, bank manager user, bank teller user, right? Customer service representative. All of them has different view of the application. Does it make sense? So when you are testing this application, as a tester, you will have to have credential users IDs to log in as a customer, to log in as a bank manager, to log in as a teller, to log in as a customer service representative, right? You will have to have credential for all of the different kinds so that you can test the functionality. If you do not have a credential for a manager, can you test the manager's functionality? No, you can't, right? So this credential they will have to prepare for you. These are the entry criteria you mentioned when you you prepare the test plan, that okay, test data will have to be provided by the project management or by the developers. Does it make sense what is entry criteria? An application will have to be stable. Let's say that application 4 hours of the day that the application is not available and remaining 4 hours are available, then you cannot test it efficiently, right? So application will have to be stable. So you mention all of the entry criteria in the test plan as well as all of the exit criteria. So at what situation you will be coming out of testing, that is what you mention in the exit criteria. And then if there is a functionality that is not working, you have to report defect, right? You have to write a bug. You have to, like, when a functionality doesn't work in an application, what we do, we report defect. We write a bug. Okay, hey Mr. Developer, you have developed this functionality is not working, right? Well, I am trying to do this, I supposed to be getting this window, but I'm getting this window, please fix it. You have to report defect as a tester, right? We write test cases, we execute test cases to test the application, we write a lot of defects, and that is where, like, we help people to fix their. So you mentioned everything in the test plan. Okay, so this test plan is very important. You normally, a senior tester prepare the test plan, but a senior tester might ask a junior tester, hey, can you prepare this section of the test plan? Okay, so uh, um, you understand now what is a test plan, is that correct? Okay. Okay, good. So I'll be sending a sample test plan as well to you this week. Your job will be to go through this test plan. It's very simple. Just go through the test plan. You do not have to write a test plan. You see what features they put in a test plan. And every organization there is a template for the test plan. They just uh, they just edit those section. They do not prepare a plan from scratch. There are so many things already in the test plan. They only prepare corresponding section of the where they need to edit. Does it make sense? So I'll be sending you a sample test plan. You go through it, and I'll be answering all of your question in our next session regarding a test plan. Does it make sense, guys? Okay. Now, so I will keep our manual testing discussion here. I'm going to start a little bit discussion on database today. Now, before I go to that discussion, guys, regarding your payment, your for Jaman and Amit, you have a payment due. As I have discussed, like you will be paying